Would you please welcome to the stage, Nikki Verd? Good afternoon. Just avoid.
Hello, everyone. Finally, I thought I was the only one in the room. I'm so glad to be here. As I have been introduced, my name is Nikki Verd. And sometimes people look at my name. All the time I get an inbox on social media, especially on LinkedIn, say, "Hi, Vicky Nerd." And I'm like, what? But it works, though. I am a bit of a nerd. So I am the author of the book titled Disrupt Yourself or Be Disrupted. Has anyone read my book in the house? Oh, my God, this is a big crowd. My friends, they've been lying to me. They told me that I'm very famous. Apparently, no one has read my book in the house. Anyway, from today, I guess when you ask next time if you know Nikki Verd, you'll be like, yeah, I know her. Right? Okay, let me figure out how this works. Okay, great. So the topic of our conversation today is beyond what is familiar. And we're really looking at a culture of questioning and unlearning. The world is changing so fast, and we cannot afford to stick to what is familiar. All right, the call to disrupt the status quo has never been more louder. So I dare you to disrupt the status quo. And what does this mean? It means you need to challenge your existing state of affairs by introducing new ideas or practicing what alters how things are typically done. Because if you maintain the status quo, you risk being left behind. Again, the world is changing so fast, so you need to shake things up. And why question? Well, it is a fundamental tool in problem solving and getting deeper insight. And questioning doesn't mean that you are disregarding what you know, because this is what some people feel like, why do I have to question? Or when you say something to someone and they ask you a question, some people get offended. Why are you asking me a question? Have you ever been around someone like that? Why question my authority? Can what you say stand the test of time? That's the reason questioning is important. It doesn't mean they're being disregarding whatever you had to say. Can it be tested? Can it stand the test of time? Does it still work in the new era? That's the reason for questioning. Put it to the test. And that will help you to expand your potentials. The comfort of familiarity. Of course, things are changing, but some people are very comfortable in what is familiar. Like, there's no need for us to change. There's no need for me to change. I'm used to this. We've done this for this number of years, and this has worked. Why change now? But that is dangerous. Because in an era where technology is evolving faster than ever before, the comfort of familiarity is dangerous. You risk dragging yourself down and perhaps your entire team down as well. So you need to be able to challenge what's familiar and create space for you to innovate. Create space for you to embrace a world that is constantly changing. Because what got you here will not get you there. Yes, the strategies that have worked in the past, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, do those strategies still have a place for the new world? Those are the questions to ask. It might have worked before, but there is no guarantee that what worked in the past is going to work in the future. Because the future belongs to those that are brave enough to question the status quo, disrupt themselves, and create something new. Meaning you need to unlearn what you think you know so that you can relearn what you need to know. It's all about disrupt, reinvent, reset, rethink. And before we carry on, I would like to share a quick story about my own life of disruption, of unlearning, of questioning things. You know, I tell people, whether by circumstances or by deliberate choice, your life will be disrupted. There's no neutral ground. You cannot bury your head in the sand and hope, oh, I get up one morning and the world is back to normal. It's not happening. There is no neutral ground. It is either you're driving the disruption or the disruption will drive you. And so in my case, I was still very much in the corporate world. And one day I went to work and my boss called me in for what I thought was a meeting for me to bring him up to speed with what has been happening. But by the end of that meeting, I was jobless. My boss told me there has been some restructuring happening and they have been wondering how to tell me. But there's no better way to tell me than, Nikki, sorry, your position is no longer needed. And those words hit me like a truck on high speed. I did not see retrenchment coming. My boss used to tell me plans 5 years ahead of time. In fact, I had signed a permanent contract of employment. I wasn't on a contract. It wasn't like after 2 years, you'll be out, right? So I sat there, and I could feel my heart pounding, forcing its way out of my chest. What next? I had no clue. And in fact, I had a couple of people in mind. I thought, come on, you've been here 20 years. Why me? I'm just coming in. You've been here 10 years. You've worked here 15 years. But that was the pain talking. I just thought, I don't deserve this. And that day, to say that day and the weeks and the months that followed were some of the most devastating period of my life would be an understatement. How I drove home that day, I had no clue. I just knew I got home. And the weeks that followed, it took me at least 2 weeks to even tell the closest person to me that I had been laid off. But as time went on, my pain and my frustration translated into some sort of curiosity. When you buy a particular mark of car, you start seeing that car everywhere. Anyone ever had that experience? Prior to buying that car, you never saw it. In my case, I have been retrenched. Every time I turn on the TV, I will hear news about retrenchment. I turn on the radio, I'll hear news about retrenchment. I literally walk past the newspaper stand, I will see a title, this company is laying off so and so many people. And so something that never really came to my attention before sort of became the center of my attention at that time. And that even drove my curiosity more and more. I was like, oh, so this did not just happen to me. I'm talking about something that happened 2016, 2017. So this doesn't just happen to me. I mean, like in a small organization like where I was, we normally don't make it to the news, right? But now when you're hearing things on the news, you're hearing about organizations laying off at least, in one case, was around 2,500 employees in the space of like 3 to 5 years. I was like really blown away by that. I was thinking to myself, aren't people the lifeblood of any organization? If an organization can get rid of 2,500 employees, how do they survive? These questions drove me to the belly of the internet, and I remember vividly typing, how do organizations continue to thrive when they let go so many people? And it seemed in some cases like productivity rises, efficiency rises, and all of that. And I typed that question. In fact, I wanted to know how my boss was coping without me. I need to know. I had no idea that it would put me on the path in which I am today, but that was the question I typed on Google. Thank God for Google. When I typed that question for the first time, it exposed me to concepts like automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, and all of these emerging technologies. Prior to being laid off, the only technology I knew would be to sit on my laptop, work, send emails, or make phone calls. Phone calls is tech, right? Yeah, that was all I knew. I knew nothing beyond that. And now I am on the internet and I'm seeing these concepts that there are processes that used to be done by humans that are now being done by machines. I was like, wow, there's a whole new world out here that I was not paying attention to. In fact, I didn't even know existed. So I became very intrigued and very fascinated by that. And I started writing about it on social media. Remember, I am jobless. I have a lot of time in my hands. So whatever findings I was seeing on the internet about the impact of emerging technologies, I would write them on social media. And people became very intrigued by what I was writing. And they would ask me questions as though I was an expert. And I'm thinking to myself, if you guys have no idea how clueless I am about these things. I'm just as clueless as you guys, but because so many people were asking questions, it drove me back. And I kept digging myself much and deeper into this rabbit hole of researching about the impact of emerging technologies in the world of work and life in general. And at some point, I thought to myself, I think someone should write a book about this. But in a million years, I didn't think that someone would be me. Because I used to think that you need to be really smart to write a book, right? When I published a book, the friends of mine that we went to high school together like, Nikki, we can't believe you published a book. I'm like, wait, I'm more surprised than all of you that I published a book. So I tell people, if I can do this thing, anybody can do it, right? So I thought to myself, what better title than Disrupt Yourself or Be Disrupted? Because I was minding my business, and my boss disrupted my life. I wanted us to be able to ask uncomfortable questions. Questions that perhaps if I was asking myself, I would have been better prepared for the layoff. By the way, they didn't call me here to prepare any of you for layoffs, okay? Sometimes when I tell this story, some people are now sitting on pins and needles. Oh, okay, I think that's why they brought her here. No, I'm simply just sharing my story, okay? So questions, ask questions. Will you still be relevant in the next 3 to 5 years? We're no longer doing 5 to 10 years because the world is moving that fast. How is technology changing my industry? Are you able to ask yourself these type of questions? How can I leverage new technologies to remain relevant? What skills can I develop to complement AI and enhance my value in the workplace or in the marketplace? How can I use AI to solve existing problems or create new solutions for my field? What opportunities does AI present? And if you're a parent, how do I raise my kids differently so that they stay relevant for the world in which we have today? But some parents will look at their kids and like, hey, granddad was a doctor or an accountant, for example. I am an accountant. You are going to be an accountant. So some parents are still choosing the field for their kids based on the glory of the past. Meanwhile, today, we have accounting softwares that can do accounting better than any human. And if you are in school, ask yourself, what I am currently studying, by the time I graduate, will it still be relevant for the marketplace? These are important questions to ask so that you prepare yourself for disruption. Because when you voluntarily disrupt yourself, you can handle the change better than when someone does it on your behalf. And remember, if you don't, someone else is going to do it for you. Because there's no place for the status quo in the new era. Again, I mentioned earlier, familiarity. Will you continue to use a spoon, or are you going to try a shovel? Like, but the spoon works. Yeah, it does. Will you transition to a shovel or continue using a spoon? This means letting go of outdated skills, outdated mindset, outdated processes to embrace the unknown. And that is where the issue is, because we don't exactly know what the future holds. And uncertainty is okay. But because so many people are so uncomfortable with uncertainty, they would rather stick to the spoon. And that is dangerous. Unlearning is the new learning. Some people need to go into their brains and remove those things out. If you look at this image, you can see there's a bomb there. Some of us carried ideas that are dangerous. They're no longer relevant for the world in which we are living today, but yet we still have them. The comfort of familiarity. There has to be some sort of a cleaning that needs to happen. You need to make space for new ideas. Delete all apps. You know when you have a phone, sometimes there's a notification that comes that this particular app is draining your phone? You need to get rid of that app. Or sometimes there's a notification that comes and says, you haven't opened so-and-so app for so long. And those are things that needs to happen, because if you don't, it will slow your device. It is the same with the mind. If you don't unlearn, it slows you down. And you need to challenge what you think you know. Challenge your own best ideas. Again, because it has worked in the past, many people don't want to give it up. Challenge your own long-held beliefs. Unlearning is a prerequisite for growth. If you are not willing to unlearn, there is no growth happening in your life. You need to peel back some of those layers. Learning is adding layers to your knowledge, of course. But you can't keep adding layers to something that no longer works. You need to first peel it back, and then you add more knowledge to it. It is a way to clear your mental clutter and reset your perspective. How many people are willing to reset their perspective in the house? We're going to look at some practical ways in which to question and unlearn. And for some people, there has to be deep cleaning. You know, on weekends, how we do deep cleaning in our houses? In some cases, this is what really needs to happen with our mindset. And the mind is where the revolution begins. This is something I say in my book. The mind is where the revolution begins. Because whatever is happening in the world today, if there's no shift happening in the mind, you stay stuck. Because the mindset that worked in a pre-AI world is not going to work in the new world. In the past, we saw AI as something for the elite class, something for the tech gurus. It wasn't accessible as it is today. It wasn't something that anybody can play around with it as it is today. But that has changed. 2023 became the year when AI became a tool for everyone. I put it this way. You know the Oprah moment? You got AI, you got AI. Everybody got AI. That was really what happened. Was it 2023 or 2022? Okay, but you know what I mean. And so the big transformation that can happen is not just digital transformation in organizations, but a mindset transformation. Because if organizations are going to deploy all these technological tools, what about the people within that organization? And that is where personal disruption comes in. And so what comes to your mind when you hear of AI or artificial intelligence? What is your perception of AI? Anybody can just respond. This is like an actual question. What comes to your mind? You can just shout from wherever you're sitting. What comes to mind when you hear AI? Hello? Come on, let's try it. Let's try it again. What comes to mind when you hear AI? Okay, let's do it one by one. I heard something here. Oh, ChatGPT comes to mind when she hears AI. Great. What else? Machine learning. What else? Hello? Come on, walk with me here. What else? Robotics. You guys are being very technical. Again? What else? Come again? Losing jobs. Great answer. I love that. What else? Creating jobs. I love that answer as well. What else? Opportunities. Okay, great. What I was hoping someone would say, which many didn't, but they were thinking about it, is that AI is the enemy. AI is coming for my job. Anyway, he mentioned it. And so the reason for this quick exercise is your perception of artificial intelligence or technology in general matters. Because if you look at it as the enemy, when you see an enemy, what do you do? If you see an enemy coming towards this direction, what do? You go the opposite direction, right? So if your perception of AI is that this is an enemy, this thing is coming to steal my job, I don't want this thing, I don't want to experiment with it, I don't want to play with it, it is going to greatly impact your interaction with it. Is there anyone in the house who has not explored any of the AI tools? Initially, you know, when AI became mainstream, the question I used to ask was, has anyone explored with AI tools? So now I've changed the question. Is there anyone who has not explored with any of the large language models or any of the generative AIs, like ChatGPT or anything? Anyone in the room who has not explored with ChatGPT? Oh, okay, great. Then that's good. That's good. You know, there was also a stigma when people started using ChatGPT, where someone will use ChatGPT and they are hiding. I don't want anybody knowing that I use ChatGPT. They will even ask, did you use ChatGPT for this? Like, of course not. Why would you think a smart person like me would use ChatGPT? This is all me. So there was that stigma where people were hiding. When they use ChatGPT to do their work, they're hiding it. They don't want anybody to know. They present it as like, this is my new intelligence. You guys have been underestimating me in this company. Now, have you seen what I can put together in a day? I used to take a week before. I just became smart overnight, you know? So, if you are using the tools, well done. Good for you. You should. If you are not using the tools, me and you will have a special session. Because it is important. Why? I was in Durban a few weeks ago, and I was talking about how some people will rather walk. The people who don't want to use these tools, what you're saying is that you will rather walk to this conference. I don't know where you're staying, but you would rather walk here than drive. Right? You would rather go to your colleague's house to deliver the message than send an email. If you are saying, ChatGPT makes us lazy. That's what I was looking for when I asked, what do you think about AI? Because some people responded before and said, lazy, it's making us lazy. I don't want my kids using it, it's making them lazy. But anyway, as you carry on, so you need to embrace personal disruption. Because for so long, when so many people hear of disruption, they only think about it in terms of business, rightfully so. You know, the new business models that are coming into the marketplace and disrupting the marketplace. Our familiar examples are your Airbnb disrupting the hospitality industry, your Uber disrupting the taxi industry. Those are new business models that are coming up. And with AI, there are even more and more business models that are disrupting the marketplace. But then the question arises, if these new business models are coming up and disrupting the marketplace at the rate in which they're disrupting the marketplace, but if the people within the marketplace are not disrupting themselves, there's already a mismatch, right? It means the market is on one hand and the people are on the other hand. There's a gap between the market and the people. How do we fill in this gap? By you disrupting yourself. And what does that mean? It means taking charge of your own evolution in a fast-changing world. If new business models and emerging technologies are changing the marketplace, the people within the marketplace, which is you and I, we need to change. That is where questioning and unlearning comes in. We cannot afford to run on the same processes, mindset, that we had operated with 5 years ago. There needs to be change. And how does this change happen? Sometimes some people feel overwhelmed with the whole idea of technology. Or when I speak about it, I've heard questions like, Nikki, this is so overwhelming. Where do I start from? It's like, you need to become part of the revolution, but don't look at it from the technologies themselves. Don't look at it from like, it's AI, it's robotics, it's blockchain, it's data. All of these can be overwhelming. Look at it like, this is a new era. We are in a new era. New ways of thinking, new ways of leadership, new ways of working, new ways of learning, new ways of doing business, new ways of doing meetings. Prior to 2020, we used to come up with all sort of ideas to work from home, all sort of fake doctor, yeah. I was sick, you know, here's my letter from the doctor. That's why I didn't show up for work. But today, you can just get up in the morning and send your boss an email. I'm working from home today. New ways of working. It's a new era. We're in a completely new era. So don't focus on the technologies themselves. Focus on how are these technologies changing the world. 2020 was the year we discovered or came up with the phrase, can you hear me? Online meetings, Zoom meetings, Teams. Hello, can you hear me? Can you turn on your camera? Can you turn off your camera? Some people forgot their cameras on and we saw all sort of things. Some of them will have to take them to our graves. But that is the new world, the new era in which we are living. And when you look at it like this is a new era, then you are forced to do something different. But if you consistently look at it in just as the technologies themselves, what do you say? At the end of the day, you'll be like, this is for the IT guys. This is for the, tech experts. This is not for me, but it is for you. As soon as you transition from that mindset, this is not just about the technologies, but this is about a new era, new ways of working, new ways of doing business. You will become part of the revolution in that way. And again, there are those that, I'm not a tech person. Have you come up with even the basic of issues at work? You go to someone and you're like, I'm not a tech person. Go to IT guys. This is not for me. But saying I'm not a tech person is like saying I'm not a learning person. No one is born a tech person. Is there anyone in the room the day you were born, doctors looked at you in the hospital and slapped the label, this is a tech person? Is there anyone in the room like that? Let's celebrate you. Apparently, there is no one here that was born and given the label a tech person, right? It's all about learning. It's all about unlearning. It's all about understanding AI. It's not just about building robots or coding complex algorithms. It's just understanding that you need to get the basics of AI. Again, when people ask me, Nikki, where do I start from? This is so overwhelming. Like, start where you are. What industry are you in? Maybe you're in finance. Ask the question, how is artificial intelligence or how is technology in general impacting the finance industry? And what new skills do I need as a finance professional to make sure I stay relevant? That's where you start. Maybe you're in healthcare. Ask the question, how is AI impacting the healthcare industry? And what new skills as a healthcare professional do I need to make sure I stay relevant? Start where you are. Are you in agriculture? Ask the same question. Because no industry is left untouched with artificial intelligence. In fact, we're living in a time where every CEO today is a tech CEO, whether you like it or not. Every person is a tech person, whether you like it or not. Every industry is a tech industry. That is the change that is happening in the world today. It's very uncomfortable because it challenges what we are familiar with. But these are the new mindsets that we need to install. You're working in the tech industry, even if you're in agriculture, because it's being driven by data. Are you in retail? You are working in the tech industry. Of course, there's still the big tech guys, right? We know them. Your Apple, your Google. But the point is, everyone is a tech person. That era where the conversation around technology was for tech experts is over. That's why I'm here. I'm not tech expert by any stretch of imagination, but I had to learn. I have no background in technology. Everything I know about technology, I learned it prior to being laid off. It is something anyone can do. I tell people, in fact, if you have a smartphone, you're a tech person. Is there anyone with a smartphone in the house? You're a tech person. And then there are those people, again, when it comes to unlearning, they're like wheelbarrows. You know what a wheelbarrow is, right? Wheelbarrow people or wheelbarrow mindset. When you push a wheelbarrow and you leave it here, you come back and you find it exactly where you left it. And there are people like that. They wait on their bosses to push them. And the most annoying thing is that you actually do push them, but you come back and find them exactly where you left them. I'm not saying don't give people a hand. Of course, give people a hand. But you can only carry the weight so much. At some point, you are like, hello, can you try carrying your own weight? There are people like that. Those are wheelbarrows. And there's no place for wheelbarrows in this age and time. Again, the world is moving so fast. AI is not waiting for slow learners or late adopters. There are those that when things like this are happening in the world, they're sitting on the fence. Let's see what happens. Let's wait, or let me wait. Let that person first try it. If it doesn't burn them, okay, then yeah, I will play around with it. But waiting could be dangerous in this age and time. Because the winner could take it all and leaves nothing behind for you. Are you going to risk waiting? or you're going to run or rush just like everyone else in trying to understand this. So the AI revolution demands not just your attention, but your active participation, whether you are in the tech industry or not. Don't wait for your boss or your organization or your wife or your husband or your partner to push you. Push yourself. Take an active role in your own digital fitness and career development. This requires that you adopt a digital mindset. Think beyond traditional models. Yes, we're so used to traditional models, but the world is disrupting that. Embrace experimentation with digital tools. I'm glad that there was no one in the house who put their hands that they have not experimented with artificial intelligence. Because it requires you to adopt a digital mindset to be able to experiment or play around with these tools. Be a lifelong learner. I was giving a talk at NetBank recently, and I was talking about the dangers of recruiting graduates, because sometimes graduate means I went to school, I've completed, and I'm done. Books are packed, I'm ready for the market, no learning anymore. I was saying the transition can happen in the sense that organizations start looking for lifelong learners, not graduates. I listened to the CEO of Accenture, and she said something. She says, when someone comes, or when they advertise a role within their organization, and this is across their global offices, one key question they ask every candidate, no matter how good you are on paper, one question they ask every candidate is, what have you learned in the last 6 months? And if that candidate says nothing, no matter how good they are on paper, they will not recruit him or her. And she explained that they're looking for people who are curious and who are lifelong learners. And what you've learned in the last 6 months, it doesn't have to have anything to do with your field or with your profession. You could have learned a new dance, you could have learned to cook a new recipe, you could have learned to play a new sport, you could have learned a new language. As long as you've learned something in the last 6 months, you are the candidate they're looking for. So that falls under being a lifelong learner, because anyone who stops learning is outdated, whether at 20 or at 80, and that's a quote from Henry Ford. And one of my favorite quotes is from Irving Toffler. He said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. It therefore means that illiteracy is being redefined. In the past, when you spoke of an illiterate, you're talking about someone who cannot read and write. But today, if you don't have the ability to unlearn and relearn, you are considered the illiterate of the 21st century. Are there any illiterate of the 21st century in the house by any chance? That's something to think about. Adopt a futuristic mindset. Yes, the world is changing. So much has happened in the last 2 years. So much is currently happening. But also think in the future. Think ahead and embrace the possibilities of tomorrow. Anticipate and prepare for future trends. What are they? What could happen? What could happen within my industry? What could happen with my profession? Could I suddenly lose my job to a machine? How can AI help me save my job? Because many people are thinking of AI only in stealing their jobs. But AI can also help you save your job. Are you able to use the tools to become more productive? That's you saving your jobs. Because we're also going to get into an era where the people that will be losing their jobs are not losing it to AI, they're losing it to the people who are using AI. And I will get to that in a moment. Adapt to change. It is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. Are there intelligent people in the house? Come on. There has to be some intelligent people in here. I have bad news for you. We are officially in an era where your intelligence will not save you. It is how adaptable are you? How agile are you? You could drown in your own intelligence if you are not adaptable to change. Become like a chameleon. I don't mean those people that you can't trust, right? You know those people, they call them chameleons? That's not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about an actual chameleon that changes its color based on its environment. Is the environment becoming pink? It is time for you to become pink. Don't stick to, but I love blue. Hello? Is the environment becoming blue? Change to blue. Don't say, but I love pink. I've always used pink. Now I have to give up pink? Yes, you have to, if you want to stay relevant. So the act of life is a constant readjustment to your surroundings, to your environment, just like the chameleon. Adapt to change or risk being left behind. And adaptability beats experience. There was a time where your 20 years experience could save you. You know, there are those people, they talk, you know, I've worked here for 20 years. You just came in yesterday. And you want to tell me what to do? Or you want to show that you know too much? Or you know a lot? In the past, your experience had a place. But the way the world is changing so fast, adaptability beats experience. Someone who is able to adapt quickly and faster will move ahead and stay more relevant than you who have only experience. Why? Because experience is based on the past. The number of times or years that you've been in the game does not matter that much anymore. Experience is based on the past. Unless you're bragging about your experience in the future. Anyone here with 5 years experience in the future? That's what matters, if there was anything like that. You can't be telling us, do you know I have 20 years experience here? Based on the past. Look at one application, ChatGPT, from the time it hit the marketplace up to this point. I think we're at what, 4.0 now? How much change one application brought into the world in less than 2 years? In less than 2 years, completely disrupted the marketplace. And you're talking about 20 years experience, which is probably from, 2010? It's obsolete. Your experience is becoming obsolete. Your certification from the past are becoming obsolete. It's about how adaptable are you. You cannot rely on the past to make decisions on the future. Because that time, again, there's no place for that time anymore. And some people are in a hostage situation, put themselves there, because they have all of these certifications, all of these degrees. And they are no longer evolving as people. And when I speak about this, I don't have anything against degrees or certificates or PhDs or MBAs. But if that is all you're bringing to the table in this age and time, you're risking being left behind. You're putting yourself in a hostage situation. Do you know I have an MBA from so-and-so university? And so? Do you know I have a PhD from so-and-so university? And so, you need to bring more than that to the table today. Because the future belongs to innovative thinkers, not degree holders, not PhD holders, not MBA holders. And upskilling is not about acquiring more degrees. When I talk about upskilling, some people are like, oh, there was that degree I started 7 years ago. I think I need to go back and complete it. Without really asking themselves, is this still relevant for the marketplace? Don't just have degrees for the sake of having it. Don't just have certificates for the sake of having it. I know that there are organizations that will under-promote you if you have a degree, which is a conversation for another day. Because I've heard stories where someone is in a particular position, brilliant at what they do, but they cannot get a promotion because they don't have a degree, or an MBA, or a particular certificate. That organization in itself is sinking. So if you are there, the earlier you jump out, the better for you. So, bringing more than just a certificate to the table is what will keep you relevant. Sometimes a 6-month course can be more valuable than a 4-year degree. I mean, it's not even sometimes. It is actually the reality of what is happening in the world today. Why? Because the world is changing so fast. By the time you start a degree today, it takes at least sometimes 3-4 years, right, to finish. How much will the world has changed in those 3-4 years? Meanwhile, if you're doing a 6 months every year or a 3 months every year, you are more relevant than someone stuck in a degree. I gave this talk the other day, and someone came up to me and said, Nikki, I think you've just changed my plans because I was just signing up for this, degree, and I'm realizing that maybe I should just take a 6-month course. It's like, well, depends what you're looking for. Degrees still have their place. For people who are looking for a promotion in that particular organization, they're just getting it to get a promotion, right? So it could be your case. And also, having just one skill set will make you economically vulnerable, or just holding only to your academic qualification. You need to be diverse. You need to have an open mind, understand what is happening, even outside your industry. Because today, the disruption that is happening in the world can come from anywhere. You may be sitting very comfortable in, for example, in finance, and you're like, no, we're good here. But the disruption that will come and disrupt your life will come entirely from a different industry. So don't rely only on your field. Have a mindset that is curious and asking questions outside of your immediate industry, which leads to my next point about curiosity. Remember when I shared my story, I said I became very curious as to how organizations continue to thrive when they let go so many people. And my curiosity drove me to the internet. And I asked questions that put me on the path in which I am today. So curiosity is powerful. When you ask the right questions, it can solve some of the problems that you have. In fact, there are people sitting here that are just a Google search away from the problems that are keeping them up at night. Just one Google search away. One Google search away. Ask questions, become curious about the issues in your own life, the issues in your profession, the issues in your industry. Ask questions, try new things. Search for answers, question conventional thinking. Read books, read articles, watch videos. Like, there's so much knowledge out there. So much knowledge out there that Benjamin Franklin said, we are all born ignorant, but it takes a great deal of hard work to remain stupid. There's so much knowledge at our fingertips that ignorance cannot be defended anymore. How do you even start to defend someone who is ignorant? How? They've got a smartphone. They're connected to the internet. So in the information age, ignorance is a choice. Confront complacency. It's part of unlearning. Don't be that guy who's beating up his chest. I've worked here for 20 years and I've never made a mistake. When you hear someone speak like that, it says one thing. This is someone who is not growing, someone who is not innovative, someone who is not trying new things, someone who is complacent, someone who is dead, but somehow they haven't buried him yet or her yet. A walking corpse. I've worked here for 5 years. I've never made a mistake. And in fact, I'm the favorite to my boss because of that. Check your boss. So questioning is the antidote to complacency. People who try new things make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. Mistakes are a sign that you're growing. Mistakes are a sign that you're onto something. Mistakes are a sign that you are not comfortable with complacency. But then it also comes to the organization. Is there room for mistakes within an organization? Or do these organizations, or your organization today, crucify people who make mistakes? What type of culture does your organization have? Can anyone make a mistake and still survive? In fact, I tell people or leaders, check your people. You want to know the type of culture you have? Check your people on a Sunday evening. How do they feel? Okay, you guys did not hear me. You want to know the type of culture you have as a leader? Check your people on Sunday evening. How are they feeling about Monday morning? Excited. Then you have a good culture. For some people, actual research shows that most heart attack happens on a Monday morning. They don't want to go into that office. I heard a story of one man who said when he gets there, he doesn't drive in. He drives around the building at least 5 times before he gets in. What type of culture do you have? Are mistakes permitted? Are people allowed to experiment? We're also in an age where competence needs to be redefined. Because degrees and certifications and years of experience are no longer the ultimate measure of competence. The new competence is your ability to adapt, evolve with technology, embrace lifelong learning, staying relevant in an economy that values skills over credentials. Redefine competence. Sometimes organizations can put a job out there and there are requirements for that job, which is we need someone with an MBA, we need someone with a degree or a PhD, without really asking, does this person have the skills for it? Because skills and requirements are not in the same WhatsApp group. But somehow, some organizations think that because someone has an MBA, they must have the skills for it. But it's not always the case. These are sold separately. And so, there's unconscious incompetence. That is ignorance. Those are the people that are a pain to work with. They are incompetent, but they are clueless. They think they are the best thing since sliced bread. When you work with people like that, you need extra emotional intelligence to survive with someone who is unconsciously incompetent. And then they are those that are conscious incompetence. It means they are aware of their weaknesses, they are aware of what needs to be done, but they're not doing anything about it. Like, I know. When you tell them, they're like, I know. Don't tell me, like, I know. But they're not really doing anything about it. And then conscious competence are those that are aware of their weaknesses, they are aware of the areas they need to improve, and they are actively learning to move beyond where they are. That's someone who is conscious competence. And then there's unconscious competence. This means you can do it in your sleep. That's mastery. You've learned so much that you understand. But even with unconscious competence, there's always room for improvement. Because if you fall back and like, you know what, I'm at the mastery level, you risk becoming the guy who is complacent. And we don't want that, do we? No. So here's a quick video. When it comes to, okay, just watch. All right, I'm sure you get the message, right? Imagine having a leader like that. The blind leading the blind. Because when we talk about upskilling, we don't think that leaders need to upskill themselves. We think that it's the people on the ground who needs upskilling, right? That's the talk within organizations. I remember going to Pretoria for an event, and I forgot my ID card. When I got there, they said, Nikki, you have to sign it with your physical ID card. I was like, but you know what? I forgot my ID. I'm so sorry, but I have it, the digital copy on my phone. And the ladies at the reception looked at me like, no, we don't do digital. And right behind where they were sitting is written, driving change through innovation. And immediately it caught my attention, and I was like, hey, I just saw innovation behind you. isn't innovation about doing things faster, cheaper, easier? I have a digital copy here, come on. She looked at me and said, Nikki, I know what you're talking about, but others comes from the top. No one gets in here without a physical copy of the ID. Now, why am I sharing that story? Because leaders sit up there having no clue what is happening on the ground and having no clue on the changes that the world is demanding. Things need to move faster. And they make decisions based on their own ivory towers, So, as a leader, you need to ask yourself, are you fostering a culture of innovation, a culture of learning, a culture of unlearning with your team? Or are you trying to lead when you yourself are clueless, just like the short video we watch? And this is important for leaders. Change starts at the top. You could be the most innovative person in an organization, but if there's no room for your innovative ideas, the organization still will not move forward. And so, as we get to the end, if you sit back and do nothing, I mentioned this earlier, if you sit back and do nothing, you are more likely to be replaced by another human being who is learning about AI, who is leveraging new technologies, and performing better than you are to be replaced by a machine or a robot. Because again, when I asked the question earlier, what comes to your mind when you think about artificial intelligence? Most people just think, oh, it's coming to steal my job. It's coming to steal our jobs. But you don't realize that your actual competition may not be AI, but the person next to you who is burning the digital candle, learning about these new tools and applying them in their work, they will become 10x more productive than you, who is relying on manual processes, who is relying on old models. And so if you sit back and do nothing, the person using AI is going to replace you, not necessarily AI. And so with that being said, what is it going to be? Are you going to bury your head in the sand? Or are you going to take action and empower yourself to unlearn, relearn, so that you don't become the illiterate of the 21st century? Thank you for having me.
Nikki, thank you very much indeed. Thought-provoking stuff, folks. We have time for a couple of questions. If there are any, let's bring up that logo, or they're already here. How cool is that? Let's go through these quickly if we may. Thank you, Nikki. Do you think that children growing up with disruption all around them will naturally be better prepared for an always changing world?
Absolutely.
Good question. Yeah?
Absolutely, I love it. I had a talk at the Department of Basic Education recently, and this is one of the things I was talking about. I said the children are ready. The children are ready for this disruption in the world. The children, when they're at home, our children are digitized at home, but when they get to the classroom, when they get to schools, they are forced to go back 50 years. Because most kids at home, they're playing, where are all the games for kids today? On their smartphones, on their iPad, and on their computers, and all of that. But when they go to school, they have a teacher writing with the chalk on the board. And in fact, I was telling them, when you see kids going to school today, in this age and time, when you see children going to school, you think they're relocating. Anyone notice that? They're dragging, I've seen some with a suitcase, it looks like they're going to the airport, like literally. Textbooks and all of that. So my question to them was, when will the basic Department of Education digitize? So that was a brilliant question, and the answer is that the children are ready. They're so ready. It's us parents, it's us teachers that are not ready for this change.
Somebody wasn't listening here because they're asking the question, what are the dangers of technological advancements?
Wait, is the advancement of technology there too?
What are the dangers of technological advancements?
There's another question you just skipped, I think you're on the other one. Which one are we reading?
Doesn't matter. Go on, we'll do them.
Okay.
You've got to learn
What
to
are
be
the
flexible
dangers
here.
of technology advancement? The dangers, there are lots of them, of course. They are unintended consequences to technology, right? And that's something the world has to live with. Again, in one of my talks, someone said, Nikki, these are not conversations for Africa, because Africa is still in the third industrial revolution. I was like, yeah, you're right. And then I asked him what phone he was using. He was using the latest iPhone. And I asked him when was the last time he's been to the bank. And he said he barely goes to the bank. He does his banking transactions on his phone, on his laptop, from the comfort of his home. And I was like, okay, let me decode the question you just asked. You enjoy the benefits of technology. What you don't like are the consequences. So you cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because apparently you actually enjoy the fact that you have to do your banking transactions from the comfort of your own home. So the dangers are there, but it's something we have to live with. You know, when you look at the invasion of privacy today, you literally will have a conversation with your friend on WhatsApp. I mentioned something about Toyota the other day, and I went on Google or opened a page, and all Toyota cars are being advertised to me. You know, so those are some of the downsides of the invasion of our privacy. You think something, you didn't even say it, and somehow they know. They know, and they just put the thing in your face. Those are some of the downsides. The fact that we are so exposed. Yeah.
Here we go. 2 minutes left, 2 questions. In the past, if you job hopped, you weren't seen as a great candidate. This is somebody who's just been job hopping, I think. Does it now mean if you're job hopping, you're adaptable and you can be seen as a good candidate?
I think it's a yes and no question.
Yeah,
Besides, it's a yes and no question. That could be one way of you, evolving and wanting to expose yourself to different environments and to different jobs and all of that. But also on the other hand, it might be a downside because organizations are like, why are you always hoping, Like, even if we take you, there's no guarantee that you will stay with us. So there's a downside to that as well. Yeah,
I have a daughter who works in the UK where I live, and we see each other at Manchester United matches. And she said to me the other day before the game kicked off, she said, Dad, I've worked at this agency for 2 years. Why am I not managing director? So because you asked that stupid bloody question.
Only 2 years.
Do you think AI will limit our kids in terms of thinking for themselves? Let's take that as the last question.
Limit our kids? I don't think so. I think that AI will help enhance our kids' productivity and creativity and everything else that comes with it, depending on how someone uses it. Right, so I really don't think it will limit our kids. It is a tool that will enhance everything else you do. We don't have to walk to a conference like this. We can drive. If you can drive your car, let your kids drive with AI and become even 10x better than they would have. I don't see any limitations in that regard. I only see opportunities.
The lady who reinvented herself, Nikki Bird, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you.